visual, which is part of what we do at Media Clubs anyway, to make sure that the...
Hi, my name's Adio and I have a question for Superintendent Chris Downey. What is the Violence Reduction Unit and what work does it do?
Right, that's a really, really good question, that. It is. Okay, I'll try and explain it to the best of my ability. Okay, so the Violence Reduction Unit kind of does what it says. You know, our job is to reduce violence. Okay, we live in a huge city. We live in a huge area. It's got 2.5 million people living in it, and unfortunately we do have violence, but we want to reduce it. Okay, and we particularly want to start reducing it with young people. Alright, so what the Violence Reduction Unit is there's me as a police officer. So you all know what the police officers do, the cops. You catch bad guys and we put them before the court, don't we? And some of them go to prison, some don't. So that's what I do, that's my part of it. But I also work with a lot of other people, such as teachers. We've got members of the community, we've got people who organise sporting events. So what we do is we try and reduce violence, but the most important thing to do that is understand why violence happens, yeah, and then try and prevent it happening, because I'd much rather prevent something than have to go out and catch someone. Does that make sense?
Hi, I'm Lottie and I have a question for you. Can you please tell us about your role with the Violence Reduction Unit?
Another great question there. So my role is, I'm one of many within the Violence Reduction Unit. As I said, we've got teachers in there, we've got doctors in there, we've got all kinds of people in there. My role is to look after the policing side of it. So there's different parts to that. The first one is make sure we've got enough police officers out and about to keep people safe, keep our community safe. Make sure we've got enough of them and they're out there in the right places at the right time. That's the first part. The second part of it for me, in particular with young people, is if we come across a young person who's got himself into some sort of trouble or they've been violent, is try and understand why. Because if I understand why, then maybe we can prevent it happening again, or another young person getting into some sort of trouble. So that's really where I'm at. When it comes to young people, the police really don't want to get anyone into trouble. We'd rather help you and change you and make sure that you don't get into trouble in the future. So there's two parts to my job. One is about going out there, getting officers out there and catching the bad guys, and doing what we do with the bad guys, you know, lock them up and maybe put them in prison. But there's also that bit about trying to help people and understand why they did something.
Hi, I'm Emily, and what does a typical day look like for you?
Okay. You guys have probably found my day really boring, if I'm honest. Yeah, you would. So, being a cop, being a police officer can be incredibly exciting. But my job, unfortunately as well, is I'm a boss of a lot of police officers. Yeah, so I used to go round in the cars with flashing blue lights on and all that. But now I don't. I still enjoyed it. I would enjoy doing that, but I'm more in charge of all those who you see running around with flashing blue lights on cars, you know. So my job, I've got an office, which is, I don't know if you know, not far down the road actually, you know where the cricket ground is, Lancashire Cricket Ground? My office is, do you not know, it's by the football ground, by the cricket ground. There's a big police station opposite and I work from there. So my typical day is, I go into work, I look at what's happened the previous day, I look for incidents of violence where people have been assaulted, where people have been hurt. I try to understand why that might have happened and what do we need to do about it to prevent it happening again. And I need to understand who was responsible and have we caught them now and what are we doing about them. I have a lot of meetings, unfortunately. A lot of the meetings that I have are with people who I think can help us. So we're about reducing violence, so I'll often look around and think, right, who can help me? So for example, the trams, okay, they're run by people called Transport for Greater Manchester, and thousands upon thousands of people get on the trams every day. Thousands of people go into town on the trams when they go out for a night out, and some people get drunk and stuff, and all what your mums and dads think, okay? But often we have crime and violence on them trams. So rather than it just being the police's responsibility, I'll turn to them and have a meet with them and say, okay, what can you do about this? how can we help you to make it safer for people to travel on the trams. I meet with schools and head teachers, you know, to help them understand why some children might behave the way they do if young people are getting into trouble in school. So I did say it might be very boring, but there's also the excitement, because I saw your face when I said what. There's also the exciting side of the cops. Don't get me wrong, and it can be fun, and there's lots of different parts of policing. You know, we've got motorbikes, we've got fast cars, we've even got a helicopter. We own one of them. We've got dogs, we've got horses. You know, so there's lots of things that are really exciting in the cops. But someone has to be the guy who organises all that, and at times I wish it wasn't me, but it is at the moment.
Hi, my name is Amal and I have 2 questions for you. My first question is, what do you enjoy about being a police officer?
So the first part of enjoying it is it's helping people, if I'm honest. I think that's what most people join the police for. I think it can be very exciting and it can be very, very interesting, but everything we do is designed to help people. And if that means by keeping them safe, or if they've been a victim of crime, we can turn up, make sure they're safe, and we can look after them and we can help them get over that. And if we catch the bad guy who did whatever they did, then even better, you know, and that helps people. So I really enjoy that about being a police officer. It can be an incredibly interesting job as well. So the stuff you see on the news each day, you know, you might go home and see the news today. I listen and watch the same news as you, so I might be driving in my car to work and I'll have the radio on and I'll hear of something that's happened and then realise actually that's going to be me dealing with this the moment I get into work, because it's on my patch. So it can be very interesting. That's why I enjoy it, but above all else it's about helping people.
My second question is, what is the best part of your job?
Again, it's kind of the same answer. So it's about helping people. So I've done all kinds of job in the police. Right now, the best part of my job is arranging all the police resources to be in the right place to keep people safe. If in the past I've done other stuff, which is like catching bad guys with guns, which is brilliant because that's about keeping the community safe, isn't it? But I think right now in the work that I do, the best part of it is if we can find a young person who's getting themselves into trouble, and if we can help them to change their ways so they don't get into trouble and they grow up to be a really successful adult, that's probably the best part.
Hi, I'm Catherine and I have a question for you. What do you find most challenging and why?
That's a good question, Catherine. So I think the most challenging part for me, it comes in different ways. We all want to help people, just as your teachers want to help you guys, and I'm sure they have similar challenges as well. Sometimes you're trying to help people and they don't want to be helped, even though you know that they should be. So if I can give an example, suppose someone's living in a house with someone else who's really nasty to them and maybe even violent towards them, you know, and they call the police for help, and we go and we help and we take whoever's being nasty and violent away. But that's all that the person wants, and they won't help us send them to court, and next thing you know is that person's back in the house and we're going back there again the next week. That really, I find that challenging, because all we want to do is help people. I think it's also challenging with young people sometimes. This isn't any of you guys, I'm sure, but young people feel a lot of pressure from friends to do things sometimes. They might feel bullied to do something, they might be wanting to show off and look cool and do things which are wrong, and we will try and stop them doing them things. And hey, I was young as well at one point, believe it or not, and when you're young you think you know everything, so you might not listen to that advice even though everyone's just trying to help you. So that's a challenge, is reaching out and connecting with young people sometimes.
If you could have 3 wishes, what would they be and why?
So the first 2, which are work related, okay? I wish that all young people had the confidence to speak about anything and speak to the teachers about things that are going wrong and troubling them, okay? That would be one of my wishes. So if you saw your friend doing things that are wrong, getting themselves into trouble, getting into fights, I wish that you would have the confidence to speak to your teacher and tell them. Okay? I wish you'd have all young people would have the confidence to speak to the teachers or the parents or someone you trust and tell us that someone's asking you to do this or making you do that. That would be my first number one wish, because we can always help people. We just need to know about it, and young people sometimes don't speak. Maybe they just haven't got the confidence, okay? So that's my first wish. The second one, again, relates to young people. Now, I've got kids, okay? So I think if you guys live in or around Sale, I think you're really lucky, okay? Because I know outside of Sale there are swimming clubs, dance classes, football teams. There's lots and lots for you guys to do outside of school. You don't have to sit on your phone all night. You don't have to sit on the Xbox all night. I bet you do, don't you? Right? You don't have to do that. You can do other interesting things. And I think in Sale, you're really lucky, because I'm sure you all do things. But that's not the same across the whole of Greater Manchester. You know, there are some areas in Greater Manchester that don't have the clubs that you guys have, don't have the opportunity. So my second wish would be that all young people have the opportunity to do things differently outside of school, and make it fair across all Greater Manchester. Okay? And my third wish, I'm a Liverpool fan. Okay? Oh yeah, brilliant. I'm a Liverpool fan, and I wish that this season, Liverpool win the Premier League and the Champions League. Oh. No, they just don't think that's funny. So yeah, they're my three wishes.
Hi, I'm Ahmed, and if you could have a superpower, what would it be and why?
Right. That's a tough question, because you can't mess about with superpowers, can you? That's like, you just don't mess with superpowers. So I think my superpower would be, you know, Superman. You've all seen Superman, haven't you?
Yeah.
And he's got this ability to fly around the world in a second and be anywhere, hasn't he? I would love to be able to do that. Okay? You imagine how much time you'd save each day if you could do that. Time that you could then spend doing all the things that you want to do that's real fun. Okay, so when your mum and your dad's trying to drag you out of bed in the morning, you look at your watch and go, nah, I've got another half hour yet. Because you can just get up and bing, you're in school straight away. So if there was a superpower, that's the one I'd like. And I wouldn't get stuck in any traffic jams anymore.
Hello there, my name is Victor Fortea, and who's your hero and why?
Okay, so I've got lots of heroes, okay? So before coming here, I thought, most of the ones that I say, you're all going to look at me like I'm speaking Chinese or something, because you won't know who I'm talking about. So I've picked, and I'm a Liverpool fan, so bear with me now, Marcus Rashford. Okay? Not because he plays for United. Okay? Not because he plays for United. But I picked him because, I don't know if you know this, but over the last year, he has done tremendous work. He's managed to get millions out of the government, which, trust me, it's not easy to do. And he's managed to get millions of pounds out of the government to ensure that young people always get a good meal every single day. And again, this won't apply to you, I'm sure, but there are parts of Greater Manchester where young people just don't get 3 good meals a day. And Marcus, despite being a footballer, despite having millions, you know, he took it upon himself, because he's from our community, he's only from down the road, he took it upon himself to make a lot of noise about the fact that some children are going hungry, and he managed to raise millions, which ensures that all children get a good meal every day. And more than that, he's supporting food banks in communities. So I've picked Marcus Rashford, 1, because I think you're going to know him, and 2, because he doesn't have to do what he does. So if I'm going to say hero at the moment, it's Marcus Rashford. Okay.
My second question is, how do you become a police officer?
Right, how do you become a police officer? Okay. Right, the boring stuff first. If you want to be a police officer, at the moment, you have to work incredibly hard in school. Yeah. You have to work incredibly hard at secondary school, and you have to go to university. Because at the moment, to become a police officer, you need a degree from university. Okay. If for whatever reason you're applying and you haven't got a degree, you have to have really good A-levels and you have to agree to take a degree. Agree to take a degree when you join. Okay, so that's the first part. There are certain things you have to achieve in education to be able to apply to join the police now. It never used to be that way, but it is now. The second part is, if you think you want to be a police officer, then you just apply. The things that we're going to be looking for is one, the education qualifications, but we're also going to be looking for someone who's helpful in their community, who's kind, thoughtful. We often have people who join the police who've wanted to do it, they know how tough it is to get in, so they volunteer. Have you ever heard of special constables? No? Okay. So these are people who've already got a job, but they so want to help the community, they want to help policing, that they volunteer to be police officers, and they don't even get paid. They're that fantastic, they don't even get paid. And they become special constables, and they work alongside police officers. That's often a good route to becoming a police officer, because when you go for that interview, you can say, look, I've been doing this for years, and I'm not even asked for any money. That's good. Another one is, if you are a volunteer in your community, you know, if you're some way involved in volunteering your time to help, it might be with a charity, that all helps. So that's how you do it. You wait to know that there's vacancies, you apply, you make sure you've got the right education, you make sure you've got a background that's going to appeal to us, and then you go through a selection process, which is really simple. I think a bit of an exam to start with, and then you train for about 12 months before you're sent out there on them streets by yourself. Thank you.
I am Anwen, and I have 2 questions for you. Question number 1. What do you enjoy doing outside of work to relax, as your job must be stressful?
Oh, it's not stressful. It's not stressful. Not times like this, it's not. It's not really. Okay, so I watch football. You know that now, don't you? You think you've got the gist for that. I like my football. I also... Does anyone play for Sale United here? No? Okay. Right, it's a club just down the road. So I also work with a community football club called Ermston Meadowside. I've coached them for a number of years. So that's what I do some of the time to relax, is coach kids football. We've had some great games here with Sale. I love going away to North Wales. I don't know if anyone goes there on holiday. North Wales, yeah, I love kayaking, bodyboarding, you name it, all the fun stuff. Not this time of year, of course. Yeah, that's really it. That's it. I like music and that, and I've got kids, so I spend most of my time like a taxi, and I'm sure your parents would say the same. One club to brownies, to guides, to explorers, to football, to dance. So, yeah.
What do you have? Do you have anything else you would like to add?
Okay. So from me, that's the open-ended question, isn't it? That's the one that gives me the opportunity to say what I want to say. Right. For me, my job is around keeping people safe, first and foremost, okay? And we do that to the best of our ability. But I think the most important thing is we need your help to do that. We need you guys to be sensible. We need you guys to look out for your friends. One of the things I always say is, especially with young people, is if you're going to be a really good friend and you see your friend is getting into trouble, even if they don't want you to say anything, it's still the right thing to do, to tell someone what's going on. Okay? I've dealt with so many cases, many this year, that have ended up really, really horrible and tragic, whereby when we looked at what had happened, all the friends knew something was happening, something was going wrong, but they didn't want to tell anyone. They didn't want to snitch, you know? They didn't want to tell on their friend. But had they done, we'd have been able to do something about it and keep people safe. So that's the first thing from me, is look after each other. Yeah? Look after each other. You're in a school, it's very safe, with fantastic teachers whose only job is to look after you guys and make sure you're safe and well. And if you learn a few things along the way, that's brilliant. Okay? And the second one is, you're going to get a bit older, and as you do, you're going to go on to your next school, and you're going to meet different people from different areas. Some people might not be like you, they might not think like you, they might show off, they might think it's cool to get into trouble and maybe even carry a knife. Trust me, it isn't. Okay? It isn't. And if there's one thing I can say is people who behave like that tend to put themselves at risk more. Okay? So I think what I'm trying to say is be yourself, don't listen to anyone else. If other people start asking you or telling you to do something, ignore them, but tell someone you trust. Okay? Any more questions?
So if you wrote a book, what would it be about?
Wow, if I wrote a book. Okay. I could probably write a very interesting book about policing, if I'm honest. I've been doing it for 25 years now, so I've seen an awful lot. I'm not sure I could write it, but I think the stories would be quite interesting for people. So if I was going to write a book, it'd probably be about Manchester and policing in Manchester.
Liverpool, that's it.
And Liverpool, yeah.
If you were sweet, which one would you be?
Wow!
It's a popular question at media clubs.
Is it?
If you could be a sweet, what would you be and why?
Okay, I'm wise, the hard part. I'm going to go for, what do they call them, flying saucer sweets? Flying saucers, aren't they?
And they've got sherbet in the middle.
That's the ones.
Oh, they're so
I've been eating them today.
delicious.
I don't know where they come from, but a bag of them ended up in our office, so I've been eating them today.
What is your favourite country and why?
Well, I've given you a bit of a hint there already, haven't I? Wales.
What other job would you do instead of police?
Instead of the police, okay, so I didn't leave school and go straight into the police. Before I joined the police, I was actually in the army. So that was a job I did for a while. So I couldn't do that now. I'm too old now. But I used to be in the army. Now I'm in the police. Been doing it for a while now. If I was to do another job, it's a tough one. It's a tough one. It would probably be something like working with Mel or something within the local combined authority. You know, where still doing the same kind of work, but not as a police officer.
I'd be a rock star.
Mine was dead boring in comparison to that, wasn't it? Hello.
Would you be a orangutan or a baboon?
Orangutan. They seem to have more fun. Do you not reckon? They have more fun. Yep.
Which is your favourite food?
Pizza. A good pizza though, not just a cheap one from Sainsbury's. A good pizza, you know what I'm saying? Wow, they're flying in now. Yep.
Do you prefer coffee or tea?
Tea.
Quick fire round then, isn't it?
Yeah.
If you designed the police, if you designed the police uniform, what would it be?
Flipping heck, you do think about your questions, don't you? That's a really good question now, because over the years with austerity, because we haven't had as much money over the years, we've had to change our uniform time and time again, and quite frankly some of them are rubbish. So what would it be? It would probably be black with a white shirt. Yeah, everyone should wear a Liverpool shirt.
No, they shouldn't. They should wear a United shirt.
No.
No one should.
How many prisoners do you get a week?
That's a really, really good question. If you ask my boss, not enough. So currently we arrest across Greater Manchester about 150 people a day. A day.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. You're the students, you do the maths. So it's about 150 people a day we arrest.
This is quite a serious one, but it is something that's been in the news recently. And we don't have to include this if we don't want to, but you're obviously from Liverpool.
Yes.
And the 12-year-old girl incident that's happened recently, you've all
Yeah.
heard about that. Some of you have. Unfortunately, she did die because there was an incident that happened Was it in the town centre?
It was in the city centre. It was a Christmas light switch on, wasn't it?
Christmas light
Oh,
switch
yeah,
on, and unfortunately she got stabbed and
Yeah,
passed
because
away.
someone was having an argument.
And a 14-year-old was
Yeah.
arrested for it. So I just wondered, I know it's a different city, but what is the reaction from the police like that? What's the next steps and how does it make you feel?
Yeah, well, it's horrible, isn't it? It's horrible and it's tragic, and it makes you feel, you can only feel sad. I think the reaction from me is, yes, it happened in Liverpool, but it could happen in Manchester. So let's not just think it's over there, ignore this. I think it comes back to one of the questions I answered before, which is around when you get to 12 and 13, you might be influenced by other people to do things. So the first thing that comes to my mind is the person who's arrested for that and has been charged for that and is in an awful lot of trouble and will no doubt go to prison is only 14 years old. So the question for me is, why does a 14-year-old feel the need to carry a knife in the first place? Because if that knife hadn't been there, then that 12-year-old Ava wouldn't have been stabbed. So for me, what it does to me and my colleagues is we think, right, okay, what is it we have to do to prevent 14-year-olds deciding to carry a knife? Which is why I'm made up to have the opportunity to do this kind of thing, because you're not 14, but you will be. And if I can just say something to you now, which you'll remember, is people who carry knives, on the whole, especially young people, do it because they think it's cool. They do it to show off, and they think they're doing it to protect themselves. But what normally happens is the person who carries the knife is then one who ends up getting injured by it. And if they get into an argument like happened in Liverpool city centre, you might use it. Even if you went out with no intention of doing that, if something happens, you might use it. So that's my thought is, and we do a lot of work around this now, is how do we convince young people that you don't carry a knife. Very, very few people carry a knife. You don't need to carry one to protect yourself. You need to speak to a teacher or whatever if you're worried. So that's that.
Thank you.
Which has been the hardest time in your life?
Hardest time. Well, there's been so many times because I've had different roles. So when I first started, I was in uniform, and I'd be the normal cop you'd see on the street rushing to jobs. So that was hard work because that was busy. I then became a detective, which is a slower pace, but you deal with much more serious stuff. I then went into gun and gang work, which was really challenging because people were killing each other, which is really sad, and it was often young people. So alright, so I'm going to say probably that part of my work was the most challenging and the toughest, because it was so frustrating that young people are willing to harm each other purely because one lives on that side of the estate and the other one lives on that side. Other than that, they're exactly the same as each other, with the same interests, and would probably be great friends, but because they allow themselves to get drawn into a gang, they get involved in this stuff. So that's probably the most challenging, because it was so frustrating and hard work to stop.
Which crime do you hate the most?
Well, I mean, there's hundreds of crimes and there's hundreds of I hate. You know, anything that involves children is horrible. Yeah, and we'll always do our best, but really do our best if it involves a child being harmed or hurt in some way. There's that one. And then there's the bit I kind of touched on before, which I really hate, is when, you know, when someone's in a house and they live with a partner who's really nasty to them or violent. I absolutely, because that's just bullying. That's bullying, and that's really wrong, because you've got someone who's like kind of trapped there, may not be able to leave or go and live anywhere else, and I hate that. That is just bullying. So there's two crimes then. So there's one where the children are victims, and one where it involves someone bullying someone.
Thank you.